Good evening once again, and welcome to the Literary Hour. I'm your host, Jackie Sayegh, and with me, as always, is my professor, Dr. Kim Moses Nagbe. Welcome, Dr. Nagbe.
Hey, Jackie, another day, right?
Another day, another Friday.
Yes,
We're
sure. I'm
here.
glad to be here.
Yes. So today we will be focusing on poetry and the national conversation, and it's
Mhm,
because March is Poetry Month. And
mhm.
as you know, March is coming to an end. So
Yeah.
we thought that we'll just give a nod to poetry
Mhm,
and specifically to Liberian poetry. Um, we will touch on selected African pieces, but mostly Liberian. So we thank you for joining us and we will get right into it. It's going to be a lighthearted conversation, and Prof and I will go back and forth talking about what poetry does, what is poetry, and we will again take you on a journey for the search for self and national unity. So join us and welcome. Prof, what is
Yeah.
poetry?
Well, before we get to that, Jackie, I always want to make sure that people do not lose sight of what we are doing here. We said poetry and uh, national conversation.
Yes.
We also want to make sure that people understand what is this national conversation we are having. From our end, um, just like you started by saying that it's the discovery of self, we want to make sure that we understand when we are talking about literature, we are talking about poetry and all this, we are focusing on the discovery or rediscovery of the self. We want people to understand that literature helps us to improve on our social skills for productive development. Social skills meaning how we interact with people. And if you don't understand yourself, you cannot so easily understand others. Because when you understand yourself, when you understand what makes you angry, when you understand what makes you to laugh, what makes you sad, and all those things, then you can hopefully kind of transfer that kind of feeling to others. In that process, you will kind of respect others as you respect yourself. You will do those kind things. Um, you will understand that our actions are begun with words. Literature focuses on words. Our actions are begun with words. What operates in our minds are often translated, or in most instances, are translated to the outside world. The other thing is that we will understand that words have consequences. Words have consequences. Whether we are leaders or not, what we say and what we do eventually impact uh, the, the atmosphere we create in the community we live and in the society we live. So our broader audience should understand that when we are here, even if we are smiling here and there, we are trying to make penetrating points. Literature focuses on words. Words and actions, when they match very well, then we have a greater ambience. We have a very warm, very healthy and helpful society. So as we get into poetry, you will see there are people who complain about certain things. There are people who lament certain things. There are people who celebrate certain things. All those are part and parcel of poetry. All those are part and parcel of literature.
So it's like I always say that when I'm writing, I write, I find it easier to write prose than for me to write poetry,
Mhm.
because poetry is like the lyrical form that
Mhm.
I haven't perfected
Yes, yes.
yet. And I don't think I ever will. There's an ease with prose for me that I don't find with poetry. So I think that if you look at earlier times, the griots, right? And
Yeah.
so when they were singing, telling the exploits and the epics, the myths and the legends, was that poetry?
Yes.
Okay.
Y- we have to keep in mind that poetry began as the first order of human creativity. And so much of what you're saying, legends, and they were rendered in the oral form.
Yes.
And you will understand also that our use of rhymes in other poems, people use rhymes, that also is source to oral oral literature, which is part of where poetry began. Uh, People had to rhyme in order to remember very long poems.
But that's not the case now. So because it
Yeah.
really bothers me when I have to find a word that
Mhm.
rhymes with every other word, and I'm like, why does it have to rhyme? Why does it
Well,
have to rhyme?
yeah, well, that's why, of course, we have uh, conventional poetry and we have free verse, en vers libre. Yeah,
Yes,
free verse.
yes.
So once I'm glad you made that point, because there are certain people who think that poetry has to rhyme.
That's the rhyme, and
No,
that's what bothers me.
poetry doesn't have to rhyme. The very fact that from the early French tradition, and also part of English tradition, uh, uh, William Wordsworth.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. Yes.
yes, no, Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. That's
Longfellow.
the
Yeah.
yeah, that's the American guy, and this William Wordsworth
Yes.
has been considered as natural poet because he wrote things about nature. He wrote things about the common individual. So William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge,
Yeah.
they broke ranks. Uh, they were heralded by Thomas Gray, who wrote Elegy in the Country Churchyard.
But
Yeah.
and E. E. Cummings. I mean, E. E. Cummings
Yeah,
writes
no,
weird.
of course, he comments. He is in his own class.
His own word. So so
I
so so what I'm trying to say is it
Yes.
like, let's say if I wanted to write a poem, I don't
Mhm,
have to rhyme, but is there a standardization that I have to follow?
mhm. The thing is that the original thought about poetry is from the Greeks, and poetry, the the essence of it is making images. Poetry, the word
Ah,
is making images.
okay.
That is at the heart of poetry. Therefore, it is very much incumbent on someone who is writing a poem to be able to capture concrete pictures. I call them pictures of the mind.
Of the mind, yeah.
Yes, pictures of the mind. So if you want to write a good poem, you have to find those words that will make someone see what you are describing or feel what you are describing. Emily Dickinson. Emily Dickinson, the one we know, the American writer.
Yeah.
She said, if I read a poem and I feel as if the top of my head were moving, then that is poetry. And of course, Wordsworth has defined poetry as experience recollected in tranquility. In
Yeah. I
other
like
words, an experience is so overpowering that even when you leave the scene and after some time, those images play in your mind. So at the heart of poetry is that of concrete expression of ideas.
It's like I don't remember the writer. He said, "Don't tell me the sun is shining.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how the sunlight glinted on a glass." Yeah,
Aha!
yeah. And I always remember
Aha!
that. Yeah, I always
Yes.
remember that. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So if we look at poetry as lyrical verse, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we
Mm-hmm.
look at poetry as literature that moves,
Yeah.
yeah, it moves.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say moves, I mean, like if you're reading an essay, it takes a while. You're
Mm-hmm.
reading, but it's like Emily Dickinson, like you say, her poem. What is it? What is it? It says, "The soul selects its own company
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and closes the door to its
Yeah.
divine majority. The
Yeah.
truth no more." And I'm like, oh my God, it's so short.
And mhm.
It
That
grabs you
yeah,
that
it grabs you. It grabs you.
you
It's
want.
that is all the reason why, that is why for a very long time people have held poets in awe.
Yes.
It was believed that they were inspired by muses. You know, you had to have some divine inspiration to be able to write a
Or,
poem. Yes.
as Plato said, it's either divine inspiration or madness.
Okay, well.
As Plato said. Yeah, and that's what he said. I mean, in that
Yes.
in that essay that we're reading, he said
Yeah.
either poets are have divine madness, I mean
Hmm.
divine inspiration, or they are
Hmm.
mad. You know,
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, so the other day when we were talking, we're discussing with our other guest, Professor Jabber Wesley, and I
Yeah.
asked,
Yeah. Okay.
and I would like to ask you the same question because
Mm.
as a poet and a writer yourself,
Mm.
when something grabs you, let's say, okay, like let's say Emily Dickinson's poem, "Because I could not stop for death, it
Yeah.
can't stop for me."
Yeah.
I'm like, what? But my thing is, do you, let's say if something grabs you, do you
Mm.
write right away, or do you say, when I go home, I will put it
Um,
down? How do you go about writing something that, yeah, when you're equipped with this divine madness?
the ideal thing is that when it grabs hold of you, it is important for you to write it down. There are people who carry portable recorders.
Yeah,
Uh, they either verbalize it orally, that is, or they go about and script because at the point of contact with the idea, at the point of contact with the idea, if you do not set it on paper or if you don't record it in some form or fashion, if it leaves you to kind of recreate it becomes a problem, except if it is so intense that whether you went somewhere else, it is still with you, then you are lucky. Just like a dream, for instance, there are certain dreams that hold you so tightly that even if you went in the restroom and you came back and you went back to sleep, that dream will be with you. That is
yeah,
how some ideas are. But some ideas they tease, they come and they go a little. So, so if sometimes it is one line of a poem that is ringing through your mind and what have you, and you need to write it down. Then afterwards you come to it. So the short of the long is that uh, when an idea grabs hold of me, I try as much as possible. That is why I often carry a pad with me,
yes,
or I carry some cards with me. Some cards, uh, 3 by 5, something of that sort. You know, I normally carry, this with me. I have them on I carry a rubber band with me, and then I carry that. Otherwise, of course, thank God for technology. I can just take my my cell phone and do as if I were texting to myself and keep it there until I can get to where I want to get. Hmm.
And what do you? I mean, I know that um, writers write. I know that poets put pen to paper.
Yeah. Hmm.
But like when I got Albert Port's papers when I was writing
Hmm.
the article for him about him,
Hmm.
I could see the evolution of his thoughts.
Hmm.
Like he would cross out a word and add
Yeah.
another word, and you will
Hmm.
see the evolution.
Hmm.
But how do you write poetry? I mean, how does Dr. Kim Moses Nagbe do you write it by pen or do you write it by computer? And when if you're writing it electronically, is something lost in the process?
No, that which gets lost is that which gets lost in your mind. You got to think,
Yeah.
because like I said, if it is intense, well, I've gotten too used to typing now, but sometimes it feels so, can I say rheumatic or what have you? It feels that way when you take your pen and you're writing and you pause in the middle and you have to maybe rub your chin a little or scratch your head. There were times I had this bushy hair, so I would just and that's one of the reasons why you sometimes see the pictures of Ngugi wa Thiong'o.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to ask it, does this guy ever comb his hair or something of that sort? Or if you are a bearded person, always kind of tweaking this and tweaking, whatever it is, there are so many rituals. That's what I want to say. There are so many rituals in getting the word out. If you have a pen and paper, the curving of the letters and all that kind of a thing, that brings you some sort of pleasure. Uh, and if you are a typewriter person or a computer person, typing a few words and pausing in the middle until some other things come to you, it's all part of the process and it's wonderful.
Okay. So let's see. Let's make a list of what poetry does or what it is supposed to do. Is for
Mm-hmm.
exaltation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that objective
That's part
of
of it.
poetry.
That's part of
Yes.
it. But that's what
So
you see in national anthems.
yes.
That's what you
All
see in
hail
national
Liberia
anthems.
Hill.
See, all hail Liberia. All of a sudden, the writer sees, the poet sees Liberia as a queen, as an imperial type of someone of a royal family. That's all hail Liberia hail.
Yes.
So it is exaltation. It is celebrating. You know. So if you go through that poem, all hail Liberia hail, this glorious land of liberty shall long be ours. Though knew her name, green be her fame, and mighty be her powers. See that.
I wonder
Then
how long the person took to write that. I mean, I wonder how
well,
long.
if what is that, Warner? If Warner was here, we'll say, "Guy, tell us how it." But I think I would surmise that he, because this was a nation's celebratory poem. Now
Yes. Yes.
this was a nation celebratory poem. So it was the other day. This young lady, when she delivered her very moving poem at the
Hannah
inauguration.
Gorman.
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Yes, that when I guess when he was assigned the task, I can imagine that he did his own reading, but he had conversations here and there,
Yes.
getting a feel of what people wanted him to say, or what he wanted a kind of sounding board to find out whether the ideas he had to express really would carry the weight, the splendor that a national anthem is supposed to carry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also the Lone Star Forever.
Yeah. The
The
Lone
Lone
Star
Star
forever.
Forever.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Again.
talking about exhortation, I think a lot of people don't know that in 1947,
Mhm,
was it, yeah, 1947, Melvin Towson,
mhm.
an African American poet, wrote the
Yes.
libretto for Liberia.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
an 800-line epic poem about
Yes.
this, and he became the poet laureate of Liberia.
Of Liberia, and
Of
after
Liberia.
since then,
Yeah,
nobody has so
I mean,
easily come up with that other.
yeah,
This is part of what we're talking about. Uh, you have to take interest in your own things.
yes,
And
yes,
how many presidents uh, have we had? Uh, one who will say, "Today we recognize this person, and he or she is going to, as part of the festivities of Independence Day, as part of the festivities of Independence Day, that you designate the role to a specific person to to write a poem celebrating that moment in time of our nation." So all these things, this is part of how we make our national life really come alive at the maximum.
yeah, 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 yeah. It is for exhortation. I think we have two poems that we want to show
Mhm.
by Liberians, for Anthony to show. I think one is by Edwin Barclay.
Yes.
And Prof, I know you memorized that poem.
So,
So the next, yeah, that one. So Prof, here
mm,
is your poem
uh,
of human greatness, Edwin
oh,
Barclay. Do you want to read
yes.
it? Yeah.
Uh, okay, let's go with it. Uh, does it fit right in there? Let's see. The
Anthony, can you?
starry, the starry host, whose far-flung cohorts gleamed with silvery radiance on the capes of night, have quenched their bivouac fires, and in wide flight are hastening like panic hunted stream of crushed battalions. Mighty did they seem, the flaming bulwark of eternity, and now for all their glorious pageantry, the filmy remnant of a faded dream. Oh, history, upon thy glowing page, time writes her judgment, but she writes in vain. Her symbols man misreads in every age, and Ghana's dance but legacies of pain. Then why lift up, O man, your heart in pride? You are but dust, and even Caesar died.
I don't like the last line. I
Uh,
don't like the last line.
what?
But
No,
yeah.
he is nailing it. First, the line close to it says, "Then why lift up, O man, your heart in pride? Why lift up, O man, your heart in pride?" What's all this bluffing about?
Even Caesar died.
What's all the, you are human being. You have flesh and blood. Caesar, from whom people ran, if he died, it's as if talking about Tubman. If a man like Tubman died,
Yeah.
then who are you?
And it's in the tradition of Blyden. Blyden say, "Why are you bluffing? You
Yes.
know, you
Mhm.
shouldn't be putting on pomp and circumstance. Why are you
Yes.
bluffing?"
Yes. Why?
Yeah,
You have a
yeah.
time to go, you will go. And um, here again, you see that literature makes you to understand who you are as a material. You are not immaterial. Immaterial has to do with something celestial.
Yes.
But you are what? You are material, and you are subject to corruption, meaning you are subject to death. You are subject to decay. Man, understand, know yourself. Socrates would say, know yourself. In knowing yourself, you will know how to deal with other people. And in dealing with other people, you will leave an important legacy, not one of pains, but one
Yes.
of glory.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
at the heart of literature. That is at the heart of poetry.
And you see, what is also funny, well, what is also interesting is that even the words, they're using old English, they're using these
Yeah.
flowery words.
Mhm.
Baltimore, he's just straightforward,
Yes.
you
And
know.
and
But
and
yeah,
talking about Baltimore, they had the appearance. Uh, Baltimore, I think Hillary Thomas, and
yeah,
then and then and
Beverly,
then Roland Tomekai Dempster.
Dempster,
They
yes.
they wrote a collection called Echoes from the Valley.
Okay.
All right. When I look at that collection, I think about they are breaking away from conventional type of poetry.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
to get into the common man. You're talking about nature's poetry and what have you. People got to the point of going away from the high and the mighty, and the use
yes,
of that language that was so grandiose and what have you, and coming to a simple type of language, ordinary type of language. That is where we will find someone like Bai T. Moore. Unlike our man
Barclay,
Roland Tomekai
Barclay,
Dempster.
yeah.
Roland Tomekai Dempster will be someone, as far as the language of poetry is concerned, he will be with the old order.
But Prof, there's a difference there. If you look at the second poem, Anthony, if you put the second poem, if you
Okay.
look at that second poem that was written by
Uh-huh.
Dempster, right?
Yes.
The
Uh-huh.
second poem that they're going to show soon.
Yes.
Look. Okay, this one is this
Uh-huh.
Africa, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Unfair men once called continent of darkness, land of
Yes.
baboons, apes, and monkeys,
Uh-huh.
cannibals and men with tails, only fit
Yes.
to be the servants of other men. Is this
Uh-huh.
Africa, Mother
Yes.
Africa, long
Yes.
suppressed, divided, ruled, impugn? How
Yes.
proud we are to Africa to
Uh-huh.
note the part you play for your sons and daughters still washed in tears.
Yes.
This poem, along with that poem that says, I am me. Just let me
Yes.
be. I.
Uh-huh.
It's very simple,
Yes.
So he kind of alternates in his
That's
use of language.
that's what people who are gifted, that's what they do. They
Yeah.
don't stay in one lane all the time. They don't stay in one lane. They try as much as possible to kind of diversify their language so that it becomes part of a multiplicity of audience.
It's almost like was it David Diop? Some
Mm.
or single Africa, my Africa, Africa, proud ancestral
Yes,
warriors.
yes, yes,
You know,
yes, yes.
you guys made us memorize that poem. I don't know it now, but it's almost like this. It's asking, because in that poem he says, "Is this you? Your back
Yes.
is broken by the
Mhm.
noonday
Yes.
sun."
Yes, Job.
So it's
Yes.
almost like this one,
Yes, that's Job.
or Langston Hughes saying, "What is
Mm-hmm,
Africa to me?"
mm-hmm,
So there's this commonality of
yeah.
themes that
Mm-hmm.
run throughout most of these poems.
The,
So
the the thing about writing is that as you go on, you need to be able to a kind of again, audience diversity is very much important, and
yes,
that will rest on the language you tend to use. Sometimes you are speaking to great minds or not so great minds, or sometimes you're trying to be a little playful. All these things are part and parcel of the creative juice that you often spill as time goes by. Yes.
and in Liberia, I find that the the poets that write, you
Uh-huh.
know, and as we say, the literature it reflects society.
Yeah.
So now we have these poems of exhortation when
Yeah.
Liberia was a new nation.
Mm,
We had
yes.
the libretto. We had
Yes.
the of human greatness. We have a
Yeah.
hill, Liberia Hill,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the Lone Star Forever.
Yes.
All those glorious poems. Then we
Yes.
come to another thing. We say poetry is also for lamentation, right?
Yes.
People cry.
Mm-hmm. This
People
is
cry
true.
in poetry.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
even the book of Lamentations in the Bible is
Uh-huh.
a lyrical poem,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes. That's true. So in other words, poetry seeks to touch on every known human emotion,
Yeah.
whether it is that of sadness, it is that of complaining, it is that of celebrating, dancing, and everything. The more you can kind of tap into a variety of emotions, the better your work becomes.
Yes. And biting more to biting more. I think he did a poem called Glory Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he talked about Liberia, and he exalted Liberia in his
Yes.
poem. So it's just that when you are writing, I think that sometimes there is protest poetry. We know that,
Mm.
but then there's poetry that really exhorts.
Mm-hmm.
It says this is Liberia, and
Yeah.
like his Glory Days.
Yeah. It
He
tends to
says
be
he says
nostalgic.
yeah, he says,
Yeah.
wandered in the moonlit night to view the glory of the past.
Mm.
The ruin of those pioneer days were silhouetted against the light, where once stood mansions decked with pride,
Wow.
now ruled by vipers and the bats. I,
Mm.
I wonder, after all these years, these ancient ruins can rise again and brighten up a dismal scene.
Oh.
I mean, when he says ruled by vipers and bats, you start thinking about all these mansions of former presidents, that are in
Yes.
decay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
And
talking about the glory days, but he says, look now, these mansions that were once decked with pride,
mm-hmm.
they are now inhabited by bats and
Yes.
vipers.
It's
Yeah.
the decadence he mourns.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
decadence he mourns, and of course we know that a a poem would normally have its own voice, and we can replace the voice of the the poet with just about anyone who might find himself or herself in such a specific mood of longing. I wonder what things would be if we were as we were some time ago. How
Yes.
many people are not? How many people are not longing for the Topman days? How many people are not longing for the Talbot days? How many people are not longing for the Do? You see what I'm talking about? So
Yes.
whenever a poem like that comes up, then it is time to get on the nostalgic trail to find out what in Liberia or whatever country you are originally from or you are in, uh, what obtained some time ago and now is lost and you want to see come back to life. That reminds me of another English poet, John Keats, who
Yeah.
wrote a poem about the Grecian urn.
Yeah.
And
Both the Greek glory.
yes, and there is that urn has a painting
Yeah.
and of people running about, of people doing things here and there, and this speaker in the poem captures the scene and is asking, I wonder, it's almost like let us imagine we appeared in this scene.
Yes.
Who will we be interacting with? What will we be seeing, and all that kind of a thing. So that feeling of imagine that moment of imagination that throws us either into the past or moves us forward from the present. Those are all things that the creative mind ponders and pins for us.
Yeah. So I think we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Yes.
Okay.
thank you for
So,
being. We just have to take a break. Yeah.
yeah,
To remind people what they that they're on watching Focus on Liberia.
yeah.
Yeah. So if we're talking about poetry again, Dennis, sorry, Anthony, could you please put the first slide up? And we're talking about the different uh, uh, um, things that poetry does. So it exhorts,
Mm-hmm,
right? It laments
mm-hmm,
present situation or not,
mm-hmm.
right? It drives the conversation. Is cathartic. Is
Yeah,
therapeutic.
yeah,
Is historical.
yeah. Mm-hmm,
It addresses problems in the society. It
yeah.
exhorts and
Mm-hmm.
it expresses patriotic sentiments. You know,
Yes.
one of the ones that I like is Abiose Nico Africa. You know,
Okay.
I really like that poem because
Mhm.
it's almost like it is like a poem of migration,
Yeah.
you know, that you leave and then you come back.
Yes.
But
What do
I
you see?
but
Mhm.
yeah, but it could also be a poem of somebody who, like a second generation, you know, of your children who have
Yeah.
heard about this Liberia
Yeah.
or this
Mm-hmm.
Africa, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
he
Yeah.
says, Africa, you were once just a name to me,
Yeah.
but now you lie
Yeah.
before me.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, and he says,
Yes.
and then at
Mhm.
the end of that
Yeah.
poem, he says, you are not a country, Africa.
Yes.
You are a concept
Yes.
fashioned in our minds,
Mm-hmm.
each to each, to
Yes.
hide our separate fears and to
Yes.
dream our separate dreams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because he's almost saying that Africa is different things to different people.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
know, it's a concept. You
Mm-hmm.
have your fears, you have your dreams, each to each, you know, and I think that is a beautiful poem.
And
Yeah, I
and
really like it.
and thinking about a poem like that, that is why again, it's when we are here, we try to also throw out some project ideas. We ourselves might be committed to those ideas, and others can come in. That is why I think that there's need for us. We might be 10, we might be 15, we might be 20, 25, even 50. uh, I like to see each one of us writing between 3 and 5 paragraphs. What Liberia means to that person. What does Liberia mean to you?
Yeah,
If someone were to ask you today, what does Liberia mean to you? We don't want a stupendous volume. We just want between 3 and 5 paragraphs. Tell us, what does Liberia mean to you?
yes,
And in my dream is that, and then have all these collated. At some point, we could even have those for supplementary reading for Liberian schools. What does
and we
Liberia mean? Yeah, what does Liberia mean to you?
and
Uh,
we've already started collecting some of them, writing some. So
yeah,
if you want to send us yours, what does Liberia mean to you?
yes,
Please send it to what is the email for Focus on Liberia?
yes,
Um, can you put your email up and they can send it to you and we will
yes,
collate it? So
yes,
what does Liberia mean to you? We've sent
just
some emails
yes,
out to people and they're
yes.
sending us
Mhm.
their
What does
thoughts.
Liberia say? In
What
other
does
words, what
Liberia
does
mean to
Liberia
you?
mean to me?
Yeah,
What does
yeah,
Liberia mean to me?
yeah. So send it to Focus on Liberia, I think at
Yes, yes,
gmail.com or gsb25 at
yes,
cornell.edu. You
yes,
know, you can send it to us and we will compile it. Focus on
yes,
Liberia at
yes,
gmail.com. And
yes,
just
please.
put there, the subject matter can be the literary hour.
Uh-huh.
And please send it to us. Yeah.
Yes.
So Prof, now I've become fascinated by a lot of the younger poets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are doing the spoken word,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they stand up and they just speak. And I was very fortunate about probably 5 years ago to be in the auditorium at Barnes Hall at Cornell, and this guy stood up and said the most beautiful lyrical poem. Have you
Mm.
ever seen an African dance?
Ah,
That was an experience. You know, you have to be there. So what do you think of this new form of poetry? It's almost, I see it almost like going back to the griots,
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
now the griots brought their history with them,
Hmm.
through orature.
Hmm.
And now we see these younger poets saying, you know what, we're not going to write anything down. We're going to start having a spoken word. What do you
Yes.
think about that?
Well, the thing about it, of course, we life has come to an advanced level now, so that yes, indeed, we talk about the spoken word. Yet there is a way of capturing that spoken word. So I will not be the one to disparage it, uh, except that I just hope that as they speak their words, they have some place they are keeping those words.
Yes,
Yes, they have some place they are keeping those words, because in time to come, death brings silence. Death
yes,
brings
yes,
silence, and then there is a place where the words can be picked up.
yes,
In days of old, the griots had nothing but their minds. And
yes,
yet, what they did was that they often had followers. They often had followers who would, at some point, practice. In
yes,
fact, there was often a ritual they went through to ensure that certain words, the way they were said, the way they were acted, that pristine order was kept. So yes, our young people, they have the spoken word, but I hope that is not an excuse for them to a kind of fall back on the written word. I one time a student of mine said something to the effect right here in the States, said something to the effect that, oh, when you tell me to watch movies, oh my, I'm so much into watching movies, but if you tell me to write, if you tell me to read something, then of course it's like you are creating an enemy and what have you. I said I will create multiple enemies with you, because you cannot, if you say that you love movies and what have you, it is people who brought words together. So
yeah,
you have to strengthen your
yeah,
reading culture in terms of what you read in a week, what you read in a day, what you read in a month, and so on. So short of the long is that all those must become complementary. In the spoken word, you must get to respect the written word. You must get to know that it has its own place, so that whenever you say something out there and it's not all too much like they say locally, if it is not gelling, if it is not well focused, then you have time to kind of fine tune it before you get out there to put it out. In other words, there is a dramatic or theatrical component to the spoken word, and yet it should not so easily forget the written word.
yeah. And even in industrialized countries, they do
Mhm.
have television and movies, but
Mhm.
normally they would turn their television off and have like a reading day, a
Yes.
reading night.
Yeah.
They are not mutually exclusive. You can have
Uh-huh.
both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of time, I know a lot of programs in Liberia now, like Keep, they're doing a good thing, introducing reading to the kids,
Yes.
but oftentimes when we were growing up,
Mhm.
the teacher would read and then the teacher
Mhm.
would say, repeat after me,
Yeah.
repeat after me. So that's how some of us learn.
Yes.
But
Uh-huh.
it's good if you just say to the child, listen, and then you read the story.
Yeah.
When I was in Liberia one time, I was reading the story and I said, once there was a toad. And then before I could turn the page, the entire class said, once there was a toad. And I said, no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no,
just
no, no, no.
listen to
I'm
me.
just
But when they were listening, I got in the middle of the story and I stopped. And they were like, and then what happened? And then
And
what
then what
happened?
happened?
You
Yes.
see, now you've
That suspense.
ignited
Yes.
a
Uh-huh.
flame. So
Mm-hmm.
now they want to read. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that yeah, poetry is very powerful.
Yeah.
I think it's harder because it has to be the brevity of poetry. It has to be brief.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you can put a lot of words together when you're
Mm-hmm.
writing an essay,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
you have to portray meaning
Mm-hmm.
in very short,
Yeah.
in a very short amount of
Yeah.
words, and you're like, oh,
Uh-huh.
what can I say? What can I say? So I
Yes.
think that,
Mm.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
it is the concise, even though, yes, we have certain poems. For instance, the
Yes,
Iliad,
Homer.
epic poem, yeah, the Iliad, the Odyssey, all those are poems, But the thing about it is that just at the heart of it all, whether the poem seems long, the lines in there are comparatively short as compared to sentences when you talk about prose. So
Yeah.
that brevity, that conciseness, that picturesque nature of the words, that is so much powerful as far as poetry is concerned.
And even if even back home in the rural areas, if you're sitting down, like you say, and somebody comes to mourn, and
Yeah.
they're singing a dirge about a
Oh
person,
yeah. Oh
that's
yeah.
poetry because they're
Oh yes.
saying, "Oh,
Yes.
John, is that you? We used to
Yeah.
go hunting," and so
Oh
that's
yes.
also is poetry.
Oh yes.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be so highly technical.
Yes.
In the
Talking.
villages, somebody's talking and they start to sing. That's
Mhm.
poetry. Yeah.
There is if I will beg your indulgence, there is a short, almost like a dirge,
Okay.
celebrating a war hero. Uh, an occasion comes up and he speaks gloriously about a war that he participated in. And this guy, at the time he spoke, he was like in his 80s and what have you. And as he left the scene to go sit down, almost immediately, a group of women began to sing something about his worth.
Okay.
And shortly, breastplate of war, strong arm of defense, how sweet you sound. Come back, come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more. They are coming, foes, fiendish and frightening. Leap forward, they will flee. Come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more. Souls of heaven, plead the cause. If only he will stay back a little longer. Come back, come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more. Oh, such fate of humans. Just when tender throats tilt for a drink, the fountain runs dry. Come back, come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more. Now, this is a celebration of someone who people in the audience know very well that had become mighty in war, a war veteran, you would say.
Okay.
And he talked about the, the, the good parts and the bad parts of the war, and even gave a little history of the people. And so this is a person at some point they know will soon leave them. He's
Yeah.
old enough, he's leaving. And so it's more of pleading. Let him stay a little longer so that we will enjoy his voice, so that we'll dig into his and drink some of his knowledge and what have you. Come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more. Something along that line.
Yeah. And the repetition, the
Yes,
repetition.
in
Yeah.
fact,
Which
that's
is yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. It heightens the emotion. Come back, come back to tell us more, come back to tell us more.
So So we would like for you, I mean, although we're going to continue with poetry. I think that, there are a lot of young poets coming up in Liberia and here, Liberian poets who would love to share their stories with us and their poems, and we will invite some of them on. But Prof, you are a writer, you are a poet. So
Mm.
what poem can you read for us? Or should I read one of mine first and you close
Yes, yes, why not?
your poem?
Please, please, please do.
Okay. I will read one of
You
mine.
think, you see, don't mind Jackie. Oh, she can write too. I like her poems and things like that. So she's grown so much. I always like to listen. So please go ahead.
Okay, I will read my poem, and please, viewers, keep in mind that I learned at the feet of the master. So, Prof. Wesley, Prof. Nagbe will be the one who will end the show today. We will continue, and I have been asking Prof. Nagbe again and again that we must have a show on his writings. If you haven't bought Nuggets of Peace, now is the time to get Nuggets of Peace, because this book is an anthology in itself. I mean, I'm reading this book and I'm like, how come I didn't know this? How come I didn't know this? How come I didn't know this? So we will end. I will read my poem, and then Prof. Nangbe will close with his poem and spread the word. We're here Fridays at 6 o'clock. Tell your friends, join us next week, and we will continue again with Liberian poems, Liberian literature, Liberian literary arts. So my poem is the one that Prof likes. It's called "The Treasure Liberia," and I will read it now, and then Prof will read his. So it goes, "The Treasure." Green Coast ancestors left a legacy buried deep. It waits and whispers to weary wayfarers, begin the search. It stirs and shouts to nomads, come. I've grown tired waiting for your arrival. I have languished in the shadows of your forgetfulness. I have choked between the crevices of your despair. Yet I wait. Vagabonds and nomads have come by sea and by feet. Grebo, Kru, Pele, Dan, Gola to this place. Gio, Mano, Kram, Bassa, Mende, Americos, and Vi to seek. Bandi, Loma, Congos, Kisi, Day, Madingos, and Bele to find. One people, many compasses. They have come seeking, and they have found this land. Wanderers no more. That's mine.
Wow.
Okay.
That's again what you in one or two words. This is the picture of the mosaic Liberia is. This is the
Yeah.
tapestry Liberia is that she is painting. And Liberia again, whether others try to keep us away, Liberia is still in need of every Liberian. And if I will just sneak in another thing, that is why something about dual citizenship, people have to talk about it. And if it comes also to the case of the composition of Liberia and Liberians, people have to think a whole lot, even set up commissions to be able to discover what is in every Liberian that must be brought on board so that Liberia will really get to the point of glory. Maybe in that process, create the country that Blama, that
Yes.
Roland Tomikai Dempster thought through Blama to create, so that people around the world will continue to respect Liberia and love to go and see the beautiful sceneries in Liberia.
Yeah.
That's very good, Jackie. That's a very powerful poem.
Thanks, Prof.
The poem that we'll go out with again. This is really a part of nostalgic, part of it's a little depressing poem, but hey, that's part of sometimes what poets as well as writers do. The poem is titled "The Grass Grazes the Land." The grass grazes the land. The grass grazes the land swallowing spent shells, battered bottles, shredded metal sheets, and bent, twisted pipes. The grass grazes the land, swallowing bones and skulls of the dead, deserted, boiling dreams spilled, evaporating in the steaming sun. The grass grazes the land, and with hefty appetite now crawls up walls cracked, the perfect twin of spiders' webs. The grass grazes the land. We shall be watching, fenced out, standing on asphalt streets, cracked like the backs of turtles. Oh, my land. Oh, my home. Would to God, snapping fingers, I'd arrive to shoo off the grass. The end of the grass graces the land. Now, this is part of the beauty we're talking about. How is it possible that grass will become some animated thing to what? To graze the land. We would think that livestock would what? Would be grazing.
Yeah.
But here we see the grass. In other words, here is something of a speaker who sees the land, the homeland in decadence, and is lamenting what's happened to people here and there, what's happened to things here and there. We can almost see grass covering everything and all that, and that is what the speaker is lamenting in the poem.
Yeah, and we can also see that a lot of the poetry that's coming out, as we say, it reflects the time. It reflects the time. So we are seeing a lot of war poetry.
Yes.
One of the things we didn't touch on was that poetry is therapeutic. It heals.
Yeah.
You know, it's a form of catharsis.
Yes.
But as I said, we will continue our subject. If not next week, we will continue it and talk about the different ways that poetry can heal, transform, exhort, and make people reflect.
Yes.
So, yeah. So we thank you for joining us. We hope that you will send your essays to us, what Liberia is to you. And if you have some poetry that you would like for us to read or you would like to submit, feel free to do that. And we ask you again to join us next week.
Yeah.
We say stay safe, mask up, have a restful, nice weekend.
Yes.
We'll do an ode to mask.
How about that? Yes. Yes. Yes,
yeah.
That's a challenge. Yeah. Auto mask and washing hands and all.
Yes. But again, thank you very much. Keep writing, keep writing, putting your thoughts on paper. Who's to say what is poetry or not? Everything that is lyrical is poetry. Once it moves you, it is poetry to be so. So thank you again and have a restful weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, Prof?
We are Liberia. Liberia is our